So are you ready to PR yourself? We'll remove the mystery from all things PR, and we'll discuss everything from our top strategies to tips and tricks and everything that you can utilize to further enhance your brand or your message. I've been in media, I'm a journalist, and I'm also a publicist. I am Leah Frazier, CEO of Think3 Media, and your host for PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. Let's go.
This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. How do funded startup founders attract prospects and talent? Podcast interviews. How do entrepreneurs with exits find new deals? Podcast interviews. How do C-suite execs differentiate in crowded markets? Podcast interviews. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. Click the link in the show notes for a special offer. Celebrate good conversation.
Back to another episode of PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. I'm your host, Leah Frazier, and I am pumped about today's episode because now I get to put on my professor hat and talk to you a little bit about Newswires and what that is like, how that is helpful for your brand, advantages, disadvantages. This one kind of entered into my heart space. Really before the beginning of this year, I wanted to talk about it and I just kept putting it off because we had so many great interviews in the pipeline. But now I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to sit down and record this so that you can have this. And it won't be too long of an episode, but you're definitely going to want to get your pen and your pad and all of those funky things that you use in order to note take, because I will be dropping some gems in this episode if you know me well enough. But before we get started, I had a very interesting week, but I want to talk. Yesterday, I was on a panel and it was for Next Gen Leadership in Dallas, which I loved everything that they were doing at this conference. And I was on a panel to talk about networking. And the moderator wanted me to talk about networking from a professional perspective because they're like, look, if you're in PR and you have to deal with the media and PR is all about relationships, so we want you to talk about it from that aspect. But of course, me being the nerd that I am, when I'm on a panel and I'm hearing what the other panelists are saying, I have all sorts of like fun facts for me, maybe going through my head that I want to talk to the audience about. And then there's this internal dialogue with myself because I'm pissed because I don't feel like the panel is long enough, because we could talk all day long about strategies on networking and building really fundamental and long-lasting relationships, both personally beneficial and professionally. So my question really on the professional networking side, and there is a reason why I'm bringing this up right now. They wanted me to talk about, building those relationships with the media. And I first talked about how I view relationship building with media as if these individuals are my friends. So I follow them on social media. I have a virtual dialogue with them. I really study them and listen to them. And I find the things that they like and they don't like. I take that into account. So when I'm reaching out to them, sometimes I'm not even reaching out to them to pitch them a story. I may be reaching out to them to invite them to an event because they said they liked food. Well, hey, my client is doing a foodie event. I don't need you to cover it. I just want you to come out and have a good time because I noticed that you have a propensity to post more on your personal social about food and things going on in Dallas. So I kind of gave the audience that tip, but we were talking about growing the network and possibly with those that are, when you network up is the phrase. So when you're networking with people where you aspire to be, or maybe they're C-suite executives, or maybe they're the financial decision makers. Many of you as business owners, sometimes you're looking for sponsors. Some of you do events, so you're looking for financial sponsors for your events. So how does growing that network work? And my advice as always, for many of you who have followed me for years, or maybe you've come to my conferences or some of my workshops, I will always, 9 times out of 10, I really should get paid from them, but I will always tell you to get your ass on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, linking up with these professionals where these C-suite executives, that is their playground, what are you doing? Why are you ticking and talking and dancing when you should be tick-tocking and dancing your ass on LinkedIn? What does your network look like on LinkedIn? As I advised the audience yesterday, if you haven't even hit that 500 connection mark, you need to get to work. Currently, I have 6,000, I believe, in my network. There is a cap that you can have in your network on LinkedIn as far as your connections, but as you can go to the nth degree for how many people follow you on LinkedIn, and they still have access to what you post. What does that look like? And if you aren't, so the statistic I gave the crowd, now this was a number from, I think it was from like 2018, 2019, where they said C-suite executives have at least 930 connections on LinkedIn. And I always tell my clients, triple that number. So if you're at 400 right now, I want you at 2,700. Now I'll give you a year. I'll maybe give you a year and a half to get there, but I need you adding people of value or adding people of those characteristics where you're like, oh, I wish I had access to X, Y, and Z. I wish I knew investors. I wish I knew editors. Adding those people into your network so that they can see what you're doing. LinkedIn is the perfect playground for that. I'm not going to go into a whole LinkedIn spiel, but I will tell you, as avid listeners of the show, I do have a master LinkedIn presentation that I did that I will link in the show notes, or you can go to my Instagram at the Leah Frazier. And if you go to my link in bio, I have linked that masterclass and it will tell you everything you need to do to position your LinkedIn account for the brand awareness and exposure that you're looking for, and adding those people into your network so they can see what you're doing. When people ask me, how did you get such and such client? Their investor found me on LinkedIn. It was something I posted, or somebody posted something about me, or I interacted with a post and they saw it, and I was hired eventually. I have business relationships that have come from LinkedIn. I've had speaking opportunities. I've traveled and spoken at conferences because they've seen what I'm posting on LinkedIn about my business. Why aren't you there? So that's number one for network growth. Don't start anywhere else unless that LinkedIn is updated. That's number one. And like I said, I could go in all day. Maybe I should do a whole episode on it. I don't know. But the first thing you could do is go out there and look at your connections, start working on adding those people in, and then take my masterclass. It's free. I'm not trying to push you anything. It's free. So I will link that in the show notes, but I will also have that in my link in bio. Go there right now. Take that class. Get your profile updated ASAP so that you can start attracting the opportunities and start networking up where you desire to be. Okay. No other perfect and easier way to PR yourself. I don't want to hear it. Don't come whining to me. Minimum 2,700 in your network now. Okay. That was number one. The number two thing that I didn't get to say, because it was too many people on the panel. It was a great panel. But when you get very brainy individuals, and we all have great things to add and something to say, not everybody gets to say everything they want. So the second thing I wanted to add that I didn't get to say yesterday on the panel was one of the best ways to grow your network up. And if you've been listening for the past year or two, you already know what I'm about to say. Start a podcast or appear on podcasts. Podcasts. Oh my God. I made up a word. Or start a podcast. Why? Here's this. Most of those C-suite executives, now you're going to have some that are a part of very reputable organizations. They maybe have a manager, an agent, a publicist, and so it may not be as easy to book them. But for the most part, a lot of your C-suiters aren't coming with an entourage like that. They're just going to be honored that you asked them to come on. They're going to be honored that you want to interview them. Having a podcast is a great way to establish a relationship. So even after this episode, the next one that's dropping is one with Kaylee Hamilton. Kaylee found me. She reached out to me after we recorded the episode. We had a chance to talk. And that, to me, it's relationship building. She was a former entertainment Hollywood reporter. I'm like, wow, that's really dope. That's really cool. But how did we connect? Through the podcast. Okay. A lot of my relationships I have started from PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. So maybe considering having a similar mechanism where you can network up, attracting those individuals because they want to have that media conversation with you, right? Because podcasting is a form of media. But then taking that relationship and developing it into something further. But the podcast is what is the lead generator, I would say. It's bringing in those leads for you. So that was the second thing I was going to recommend, but they couldn't get to me because everybody had something to say. Everybody wanted to talk. So that is my 1 and 2 free tips today. That's not even the crux of this episode. So with that being said, we're going to take a short break here, come back, pen, paper, pad. We're going to talk everything Newswires. And for some of you who may have previously hired some publicists, I'm going to give you an unpopular opinion. But however, if you are armed with what I'm about to tell you, then you're not going to fall for the okie doke. And that is what this podcast is all about. I want you to maximize your efforts, maximize your efficiency, and maximize where you spend your coin. Okay. Because some people are going to have you got, and you're going to get pissed because you've paid for some things that necessarily those funds should have been redirected somewhere else for your exposure. Okay. So we're going to hear a quick word from our sponsors, Kitcasters. And when we're back, we'll get right into Newswires. So keep it locked right there. All right. And welcome back. Let's get into it. Today, we're going to be talking about Newswires. What are Newswires? Why would I need a Newswire? Why is my publicist talking about a Newswire? How much do these things cost? So that's what we're going to be talking about briefly today. So essentially, Google tells us the formal definition of a Newswire is this: an electronically transmitted service providing up-to-the-minute news stories, financial market updates, and other information. But let's take this definition and streamline it for PR purposes. So traditionally, we would take a press release. Let's say you have a launch. Let's say you have information you want to get out. Let's say you have something newsworthy. There are different Newswire services who will take that press release and mass distribute it across the wire. And the wire can get picked up by journalists, influencers. If you're looking to go outside your hyper local area, it could take, so I'm in Dallas, so it could take it outside of Dallas and distribute it into Atlanta, Georgia. It could send it to New York City. It could send it wherever I tell the Newswire to send, or the company that does the Newswire to send my press release. That's where it's going to go. You can also designate with Newswire services what kind of industry you want your press release to go to. So with these Newswire companies, they have compiled the names, the email addresses, the contact info for different reporters, for different stations, for different individuals that have access to these Newswires. So imagine it, almost think of it kind of like a express mail. Okay. Like it's an express mail service where I have my press release and then I have a Newswire service, send it out, and it goes where I'm telling them to send it. Like, oh, I want you to send this to beauty journalists. I want you to send this one to business publications or entrepreneur focused, media outlets, whatever. send that across the Newswire. So you do have these different elements where you can choose. I don't need to send it globally to everybody because it's not an everybody issue. I want to focus sending my press release just to my beauty reporters, or I just want to send it. Maybe it's Texas focused, right? So I don't need you sending the Newswire nationally to Florida, Georgia, and Washington. I just need you to send it to the Texas media outlets. So Newswires are incredible for really just kind of, sorry, that's my dryer. I'm doing laundry right now. Newswires are really good at just kind of honing in and mass distributing your press release and you not having to do any heavy lifting. Another advantage or another service of Newswires, I should say, is that they have automatic distribution or publishing, I could say. Like it will automatically publish to certain outlets or certain media partners that will come up easily in Google News, right? So for example, if you publish your press release through a certain newswire that has access to Google News, or they get automatic access to Yahoo News or Business Insider, the moment you click publish or send with the newswire and they send it out, you will automatically be published in Yahoo News, your press release. Now, it's not a direct interview. They're just taking your press release and republishing it, but you get that Yahoo News listing. It's going to come down on Yahoo News. It's going to come down on, depending on who you choose, they may have access to Business Insider. So your press release gets republished as a Newswire publishing on Business Insider. The same for, I've seen it for MSNBC. I've seen the same for, I'm trying to think of some of the other outlets. But you get what I'm saying. Some have direct access to those sites where traditionally you would want to be. Okay. So what is the bad thing about this? There's not necessarily anything bad. It's more about strategy. Okay. Where I've seen clients or small business owners get frustrated is they'll try to do some sort of PR campaign. They maybe reach out to a publicist, and I'll be honest, I've had 2 clients now come to me that they had a former publicist and the strategy was send the press release through the Newswire. And I was like, okay, and where's the rest of the strategy? And they're like, no, that was it. They just told us to publish this on the Newswire. And one that I can remember in particular, they came to me, it was a rush job, and said, oh, well, my former publicist published the press release and we got over 900 pickups. And I was like, oh, wow, really? That's amazing. And as soon as she said that, I knew all the publicist did was take the press release, hire a Newswire service, send it out over the Newswire, and walk away. Versus what most clients want. And I'll try to tie these together. I wish I had a whiteboard and all of you were right in front of me right now. But what most clients want are one-to-one interviews. They don't want one press release published 900 times. They want 900 different perspectives on their brand, their business, their story. Okay. So when she said, oh, I had 900 pickups, I was like, oh, okay. So she sent it through a Newswire. She's like, huh? I was like, so she sent it through a Newswire. And you're probably published on some no-name Fox TV site in some other state that your business doesn't even do business in because they have an automatic deal with the Newswire company, but it does you no good. Why, who cares if you're published in, I don't know, in Sedona when your business is in Texas? That's what Newswires do. Okay. So that's why you have to ask the questions. That's the disadvantage of a Newswire. I have yet to have one that I really, really liked where an actual journalist picked up the press release from the Newswire and contacted me and said, this is a fabulous story. I want to interview your client. It happened. Now, I have a new service I'm going to talk to you about today where it did happen. They did an excellent job, and they're very affordable, and I will recommend them, and I will link them in the bio. I tried to get them to come do an interview, and I haven't heard back. So I just went ahead and wanted to publish this because I'm seeing this way too much. But if you're looking for one-to-one interviews, you're wanting somebody to bring you on TV, you're wanting somebody to read your press release and further your story, I do not recommend doing Newswires, okay? However, here's where I do recommend doing Newswires in addition to you pitching these journalists, these reporters, your story, okay? So it is a side-by-side deal. It goes in addition to you sending the press release one-to-one to the TV station, one-to-one to the magazine editor, okay? If you want your story and you need SEO, search engine optimization, if you want your brand, your company, your name to come up when somebody Googles you, and you want press to come up when somebody Googles you, use a Newswire. If you have nothing, if you don't have any stories, if you don't have any press, or let's say you've had press, but it's been a while, okay? And you're trying to regenerate interest in your brand or your business, then run your latest press release on the Newswire so that within seconds you're on Google News, within seconds you're on Yahoo News, within seconds maybe you're on Business Insider and some of the other sites that will pick it up. That is the only way, okay? Or one of the only ways. There's several. But you're going to do that in addition to pitching one-on-one for stories, okay? This is kind of like that quick fix. Like, oh my God, when you Google me, my story from 2015 comes up. I need my new stuff coming up. Then send a press release down the Newswire so that you will get at least several hits from major outlets to come up right away, okay? But do not do that with the expectation that a journalist is going to call you or email you because your story's so great, because they're not getting, it's the percentage of them getting their stories from Newswires is low, okay? And anybody can at me at this. I don't care. I've been doing this a while. I've had so many clients come to me pissed because they've spent so much money on Newswires with no return. For SEO and to hit Google, Yahoo, Business Insider, MSNBC, whatever it is, quick, use a Newswire, all right? For search engine optimization, use a Newswire. My second bit of advice is we have startups and tech companies that need press hits in order to include that in their pitch, to have some sort of access to funding. Investors love to see that your story is out there. It's Googleable. It comes up when they Google your name. They're impressed. Then use a Newswire in that instance. If you know you're about to go into a big investor meeting, or maybe you're a startup and you're going into your next round of seed funding or whatever it is, then use a Newswire in addition to what have I said before, pitching one-on-one for more extensive stories on your brand, okay? So I've seen it happen. We've done it for clients who were like, oh, we're launching this product, but the investors are watching. They're not, they're waiting on the other stories, but we need these hits. Send it on the Newswire. To me, those are very viable instances. If you are launching something and you want to get on TV, the radio, in a magazine, and you want an in-depth journalist coverage on you, do not use the Newswire. Put your money elsewhere. Put it into paid media, even Facebook ads, Instagram ads, paid whatever it is. But to spend the money on a Newswire with the expectation that you're going to get interviewed, it's just not going to happen. I'm here to manage your expectations. Okay. All right. So with that being said, there are excellent newswire services. Okay. The most expensive I've ever used was Cision. Okay. And I believe Cision is affiliated or owns PR Newswire. But what I love about Cision is that you have access to not just your traditional media. They'll send that newswire to your influencers as well. And you have so many categories where you can send the press release. I love that about them. Okay. But I had a client, I believe we spent $1,500 on one release. What you have to expect is that they give you a word count on the release. So you have to check. And with Cision, you'll have an account manager. And so you can call them and they can tell you for, a 300 or 400 word press release is going to cost you $600. And that's not even you adding a photo. If you add a photo, that's another $400. If you want to add your logo within that press release, that's more money. If you want multiple photos, that's more money. So by the time you get done, you're at about $1,500 for them to send your press release out. Okay. However, Cision is the GOAT. They're the greatest of all time. They've been doing this thing for a long ass time. So when they tell you this is going to hit Google, Yahoo, and all those different places, you better believe, baby, it's going to hit those places. So if you can do a Cision Newswire for PR Newswire, go for it. However, there's other ones that are a little bit less that can get you some tractionable results. So one of my favorites is EIN Newswire. Quick, easy, fast, user-friendly. I don't have to get on the phone with the account manager. It could publish right away. Great. When you Google it, it comes up. Fantastic. I believe, and what I like about EIN Newswire, I think you may get a couple for free. So just look them up. They really want your business. I think the most I've ever paid was probably like $99 to send one release. But hey, some of my clients, that's all they got. We'll work with it. Okay. And again, with your Newswire service, when they're distributing your press release, they're going to look at length of the press release. If you want to add photos, that's going to cost you more. If you want to add your logo, that's going to cost you more. So you have to be prepared that as I'm giving you this minimum number, it could go up depending on how much you want to include. But if I'm going to have something online, please add the photo. Please add the photo. So that when you Google it and somebody clicks into it, there is an image. All right. So please go the step further and add the image. One that has really knocked my socks off recently is a company called eReleases. eReleases has partnered with Cision, which I loved, right? So they do your press release distribution. They send it out through the Newswire. What I liked about eReleases, I believe it was fairly cheap too. It was around $99 too. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was at $150. But what I liked about them was we got our hits. We got Yahoo, I believe. It hit Google News. We got some really good hits, and a couple of writers actually reached out wanting to interview my client. I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, they actually deliver. And they have a connection to Cision's PR Newswire. So through eReleases and that lower rate, our press release was republished through Cision's PR Newswire. So it was a great value, a great deal. And then they have a very white glove, almost hand-holding service where they call you. They want to make sure everything worked out great. Do you have any questions? They'll call you several days after the release has been sent. They send you your reporting. Now, those other Newswire services do send you reports to let you know in the first week or in the first day, here's how many hits you got. Here's how many pickups you have. Here's where it is on the internet. But what I like about e-releases is, yes, somebody is calling me to discuss that. If a journalist reaches out and I missed it, they call me to say, so-and-so just picked up the press release and they're trying to schedule an interview with your client. I love that because I'm busy. Sometimes I don't get my emails in real time because I'm out with my clients. I'm at the news station. I'm everywhere. Okay. So I love that they did that. I love that they give you so many reports. So when I got the first report, I was just able to send it to my client. Here's where the press release is right now. Here's where it's picked up. You can show this to your investors. Then you get a 30-day report. And I believe you get a 90-day report to see how did that press release do over time? And why is this good? A, for your records, right? But B, it holds them accountable. No more bullshit. No more somebody calling and telling you that it's being sent here and you're going to be all over the place or have 900 pickups and then they can't prove it to you. So that's what I love about them. So e-releases, it was super affordable. I want to say we didn't pay any more than $150. I got to go back and check, but it was super cheap and I will definitely use them again. Highly recommend it. I was hoping to get them on the show. I haven't heard back. And then the other cool thing that they did, I just like feeling VIP when I'm not so VIP. Okay. Like a month later, I get some mail and I'm like, who sent this to me? And it was from them. And they sent me their book on PR campaigns. And I was like, now granted, I'm coming out with my own book on how to PR yourself, but I thought that was just so thoughtful. And I love companies that are thoughtful. I love companies that really go the extra mile to help. And so I am endorsing e-releases for small businesses and entrepreneurs. You heard it here first. I am endorsing it because it can help you get to where you need to be. All right. They are a great service. Now, moving along past e-releases, if you are a Black-owned business, then we have Newswires specific to Black businesses and the Black community. Okay. So you have blackpr.com, I believe, or blackprwire.com, blacknews.com. Those are all Newswire services. I've used several and I've gotten some really great traction. And if you go on LinkedIn, oftentimes I believe it's going to be blackbusinessnews.com that gets shared big time on LinkedIn for whatever reason. I still can't figure it out, but blackbusinessnews.com gets shared extensively on LinkedIn. I'm like with sick numbers. Okay. So if you want to do a Newswire, if my client's a Black-owned business, and let's say we're doing it, in addition to our one-to-one pitches and one-to-one outreach, I tell them, let's do e-releases. Fine. But let's throw a little bit more money at the pot and do blackbusinessnews.com or blackprwire.com. And let's specifically target Black media outlets. Okay. So that is my advice. So your Black Newswires will generally run you anywhere on the low end from $150. But I think the last one we sent on the Newswire, we paid $450 for, but it is well worth it. You get your press release, I believe, up to 300 or 400 words. We got our photo, we got our logo, we got hyperlinks, all sorts of stuff. Boom, poof, send it out. And I get the emails from Black PR News or one of them, and I read them every week to see what's going on across the nation. So that is the ins and outs of Newswires. So if I'm going to recap, because I just tend to I like to teach. So if we're going to recap, your Newswire is a press release distribution service where you can designate where you want your press release sent. Okay. However, in managing your expectations, we learned today that we are not calling a Newswire distribution a PR campaign. Therefore, we are not going into it with the expectation that I pay this for a Newswire service. I expect interviews. No. We learned today that this is a strategy in addition to your one-to-one outreach with TV stations, podcasters, radio, magazine outlets, digital outlets. We learned advantages of Newswires. It helps with your SEO. It helps when people Google your name, your business, your launch, whatever you have going on, for it to pop up on that first page. If you need that immediately, use a Newswire. In addition to one-to-one outreach. Okay. We learned that Newswires are amazing if you need quick hits, because you have people asking what the hell's going on with your brands. Maybe they're VCs, maybe they're investors. Maybe there's some other early adopter in the startup community that needs to see traction in that way. Use a Newswire. All right. But don't get got by publicists who tell you they're going to craft a campaign and their entire campaign is, well, let's put it on the Newswire. We got 900 pickups, and they know you're going to get excited because they know you don't know that that's crap. It's not crap. I mean, it's good, but it's not really moving the needle for where you need it to be, because who's seeing it? It may not even be your audience. It may not even be where you're selling your product or service or where your target audience sits. So 900 pickups for what? So now you can hold them accountable and hold their feet to the fire. Okay, tell me why we're doing this Newswire. Why aren't we doing one-on-one outreach? Why am I paying this? And sometimes they already build in the fee for the Newswire into your fee, which is fine. But hold them accountable to tell you why that is a part of the strategy. All right. Otherwise, just do your one-on-one outreach. And that's what we learned today. We learned about pricing. Who has the best Newswire pricings for startups, small businesses? What's the strategy? So if you have any questions, please reach out. Okay. I hope that you learned a lot in this episode. Like I said, I have this conversation all the time. Originally, I wanted to bring in other publicists to talk about how they use Newswires, and maybe we'll do that later on down the line. But this is a reoccurring ask that I'm getting from a lot of listeners, that I'm getting from a lot of small businesses, and I just wanted to address it today. So with that being said, you know what to do at this point. If you like this episode and if this really rocked your socks, please rate, like, share, comment, leave us a review, and share this with others who need to know how to better PR themselves. Okay. And if you go into the show notes, I have lots of goodies out there for you. I'll even have a link to e-releases that I just talked about. My link to my LinkedIn masterclass will be there, and any other valuable resources you may need, but keep it locked in here. I'm always going to give you the goods. I'm never going to hold back. All right. So with that being said, I bid you adieu. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll be back with more episodes of PR Yourself. So definitely subscribe, keep it locked in, and until next time.